Got it. Ha ha. I am victorious. Hello, everybody. I am sorry I'm a little bit late. I was dealing with technical issues on YouTube. My name is Crystalline Sophia. I'm an astrologer, magician, stuff. I do a lot of stuff. I have a lot of books, and I love to talk to you about it. And so now we can begin our week. Hello. Oh, how is everybody doing? I'm so excited to see you. I'm going to catch up a little bit on the chat because you guys have been already crushing it. Also, everybody, so Amber is now going by AJ. So if I say AJ, I'm referring to our incredible mod, Amber. So AJ, our wonderful mod, is going to help me keep track of all the questions and all the stuff that I may miss because I have to skim or anything like that. So we will do our very best to make sure everybody gets seen, everybody gets appreciated, and if there's a question, it gets addressed to the best of my ability at this time. And if I'm not good enough today, I will educate myself and come back to you later. So do not worry. Awesome. Lucky Phoenix, it's good to see you. Amber Ray, hi. Rocio, Rita, Angela's here. Natalie's here. Am I missing anybody? It's so good to see everybody. Let's see. I think Shauna is here. Cool. Amazing. Gonna take a bit of a breath. It is some sort of holiday today. I do know that. I forget, is it Labor Day or Memorial? It's Labor Day, right? Today's Labor Day. I get those two mixed up really easily. I apologize for that. But in my world, in the astrological world, it is the week of the eclipse. And it is also the day that Saturn egresses, fun word, into Pisces again. So we've got a lot happening this week. It is quite the eventful week in astrology, both in the transits that are perfecting in the sky in real time and in some of the timing that's coming up in the Aries ingress, which if you're on my Patreon, on any paid tier, you got a little bonus video there where I kind of explained to you how this month has some extra oomph to it for the Aries ingress. So check it out there. And the reason it's on Patreon, hi Hunter, is because I share a little bit more detail on Patreon that, in my opinion, is something that deserves consent. And so in order to make sure that the people that I'm sharing with have, in some sense, consented to know a little bit more about the astrology that's going on, I put it in Patreon. That's my sort of threshold of consent there. So hopefully everybody who was able to check that out got to see it. And again, we're not doing any like fear mongering or anything. It's just, this is what the astrology is up to. And we're going to watch and see how accurate the astrology is, or how the archetypes of the astrology unfold. So astrology in general is very much, and more astrologers are starting to say this, and I agree very much, we are witnesses to history. And I really love that. You know, we can see the archetypes that are unfolding. We can see the trends of society and historical events and repeated patterns in history. And so we sort of just bear witness to what's happening and we record it. In the more academic astrological sphere, there's a lot of discussion happening right now where we know that astrological techniques are predictive techniques, which they are. But also, the coolest part is to be able to look back on a transit or an astrological event and say, ooh, that's what happened. And then we get to write it down for posterity for the next time it happens, for an astrologer to look at it and say, based on what happened last time, we can expect something like this to happen this time, knowing that the whatever like this happens this time is going to be somewhat different because it is a different time. That's why one of the cool phrases is history doesn't necessarily repeat, but it does rhyme. And that's something that we see happening a lot with astrological predictions. We also like to say it's kind of on an upward spiral. History spirals. It comes back around, but it's a little bit different because we're building upon that last time as well. So hopefully we've been educated by things that happened last time, and hopefully it embodies itself just a little bit differently. And of course, an aspect is a singular thing that has the whole rest of the sky around it, and those have different patterns and cycles that are unfolding. So you could get this pattern unfolding during another coexisting cycle, and then the next time it comes around, there's a different coexisting cycle that's happening at that time as well. So, hello, Danny and Megan. Thank you for joining us. And Kristen is here. Yay! Look at everybody. I'm so excited to see you. So, that's something to just keep in mind with astrology. We don't talk about it a lot on the social media sphere because it's a lot to put into 30 seconds or a minute and a half, or you don't get shown to as many new people if it's over 3 minutes. It's just a lot of rules on social media that make sure that we have to cut things down. And in doing that, you don't get the full depth of things. I mean, we know this for everything. It's just not something that consciously occurs to us. Like when I see someone posting about nutrition, my first thought is, ooh, a fact I can cling on to. And then I have to remind myself this is not the depth of the science. So it goes for everything. Awesome. Good morning, Erin. I'm glad you made it to the live as well. Cool. So how are you guys doing? Also, quick question. Does anybody here, to your knowledge, do you in your own chart have Saturn, the planet Saturn, in Pisces? Let me know. Because Saturn today goes back into Pisces for the last time. And so this means that you're probably around the age of 27 to 30, or add about 30 to 30 years onto that, because it's your Saturn return and you're wrapping it up and you're almost done. Especially if Saturn's in the early degrees of Pisces in your chart, you actually are basically done. I think you can call it quits. Like you're okay, you're in the clear. If Saturn is in the later degrees of Pisces, you will get one final cherry on top of that Saturn in Pisces experience. And if you have Saturn in Aries, especially the earlier degrees, you can maybe expect a little bit of a reprieve from the intensity that you may have been feeling since mid to late May this year. So there's something as well. Yeah, cool. Kristen has nothing in Pisces. That's okay. Lots of people have nothing in signs because the planets, there are only 7 visible planets and there are 12 signs. So odds are, because it's almost inevitable if you think about it, you're going to have at least one empty sign because 7 minus 12, so. And a lot of the times planets will bunch up in a single sign together, which makes the odds even higher of empty signs. Ren says your dad's Saturn return is in Pisces and he's turning 60. So it's the second Saturn return. Yeah. So that's amazing. Good. So those of you with no planets in Pisces, there are other things you could do to narrow this down and be like, does Saturn affect me? But you could also just ask yourself in the last 2.5 to 3 years, have things been rough in a certain area of your life? And have they felt a little bit easier since May of this year? Whatever that rough thing is that's been on hiatus will likely have its final smoothing over between now and I believe it's February of next year when Saturn gets out of Pisces again. I can double check that. I have a chart up. So Saturn is back into Pisces now and will remain in Pisces until February 13th. That's right before Valentine's Day. You have a symbol VX in Pisces. So VX would mean that I'm guessing it's the vertex. Don't worry about it. It's part of the celestial spheres and spherical trigonometry that people are trying to capture in a 2-dimensional circle. And so it's not something you have to totally worry about in especially your average transit consideration stuff. The vertex for reference is something similar to a point on your chart, like the midheaven, like the IC. It's something like that. It's a reference point in your chart that lets us know something. And some astrologers use it, some astrologers don't. So it's definitely not one of those big poignant points like the ascendant or something. Yeah, Labor Day rant. I don't have a rant for Labor Day specifically. So the rant that I am preparing, and honestly, I'm thinking about doing some more research for this, is a rant regarding, and I'm going to say, so this word is going to maybe catch you off guard initially, but I'm going to explain it. I'm going to maybe do a rant on the Trinity. And I say the Trinity because one of the things I have found in my research in various mythologies is almost every creation myth from across the globe and throughout history has a Trinity in its origin story. Also, almost every creation myth begins with the world being in a sort of chaotic sea. It starts in water, in this ocean that needs to be given form. And there's usually some kind of a sea monster that is conquered by the OG creator god, whether that's Tiamat or I believe it's Leviathan biblically, or it was another one in Greek mythology. They have so much in common. And so you can see me kind of ramping up to the rant energy with this already. But one of my favorite things in life that I like to explore is how many mythologies are telling a very archetypically similar story. And so maybe some of the mythologies and theologies out there that are trying to silence or overshadow other mythologies and theologies need to just calm down, stop dancing on the table, and sit around and have a circular conversation. That is my ideal scenario. So I like to talk about the mythologies as much as possible in their circular sort of equality with each other. I do understand, though, that in our day and age, there's a certain fundamental take on what began as the cult of Jesus. Just like there was a cult of Apollo and a cult of Artemis, there was a cult of Jesus. That's how it started. And Constantine blew everything up and made it pop. So just like there was that, they started the same way. They just got into politics, which shouldn't have happened. And that's my opinion, right? But we can trace it back thousands of years of problematic stuff. So I'll get into that at some point. But let me know if that's something you'd like to hear. And if you want me to rant about something else, I know a lot of my rants end up being mythological, theological. I would love to take on some of your astrological rant topics as well. I'm keeping an eye out for that. And even just, general spiritual things. My goal with these rants is to sort of just burst any bubbles of misconception or of gatekeeping that exist in the spiritual kind of environment, so that we can feel better about believing what we believe, about exploring what we want to explore. And I wanted to give you a sort of liberty to do what you want to do and to feel validated in your pursuits. That's the goal of my rants, is to just take whatever is being stuck and shoved in our face as law and say, chill out. So let me know how you guys feel about that. Have you read any of Carl Jung's stuff on the collective unconscious? It looks like similarities of all religions and their symbols. Yeah, I have Jung's red book over here. I haven't read the whole thing, but here's a fun book reference. Lots of astrologers have gotten into Jung's archetypal stuff. Most of all is Richard Tarnas. And Richard Tarnas wrote this giant book, which is fantastic and has an audiobook. It's called Cosmos and Psyche. So yes, we get into that a lot. This is also my favorite reference when looking at the cycles of the outer planets being Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So I highly recommend this book. Take your time with it. It's actually a really fascinating and fun read. It's a really good one. And Richard Tarnas and his daughter, Becca Tarnas, both are very well versed in what we call psychological astrology, and therefore also Jungian astrology. It's a thing, believe it or not. There are so many branches of astrology because there's so much you can do with it. And Jungian astrology is definitely one of them. Meg, yes, I'm so glad you enjoyed this book too. Yeah. Crossing your fingers for a corgi sighting. I may have to disappoint you for corgi sightings today because it is a holiday. My husband, Dan, has off. And because Dan has off, the corgis are very satisfied with being with him right now. Zelda may come down. She likes to make sure she monitors everybody. So she'll go back and forth. If she comes down, I will try to arrange a corgi sighting because dang it if she isn't the cutest thing in the world. So I would be happy to share. Yes. So, we have a question from Kristen here. Is it better for you and Emily to watch and listen to Inkwell on YouTube or Spotify? Okay, Kristen, I adore you for asking this question, and it gets me into something that I do want to share with you all. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about it. So is it better for Emily and me to watch The Alchemist Inkwell podcast, which is our spiritual podcast for grounded people? It actually gets me into two things I want to talk about. You're amazing, Kristen. So to watch it on YouTube or Spotify, Either one works. The thing, the metrics that help us the most, and Angela, you know a lot about this kind of stuff, I remember. So if you want to also pitch in on, if because you're smarter than me at this, if I'm wrong, correct me in the comments. Just the downloads themselves and the feedback and the interaction, the view counts and stuff, that's what's going to really help us. The reason we want that help and that assistance is because we are currently trying to procure some people to sponsor us so that we can do more free content for you and still be supported in our own lifestyles, which gives us the time to be even better at the free content for you. And you guys don't have to pay anything. You guys get to just enjoy it. That would be the ideal world in my mind, for us to be sort of sponsored by someone who has like a whole company and all that jazz that they take care of. And then we give them a bit of a highlight, knowing that we're only ever going to take sponsors who have really good stuff anyway. We're going to maintain our integrity with that. But that way also, we get to just do more free stuff for you guys. And that to me is a really cool system that I would like to be able to set up for everybody. So when we ask for comments on YouTube, those help us out because it makes YouTube spread it more. And the more YouTube spreads it, the more people see it, the more views we get and followers and subscriptions and like all that stuff. And the better that looks, the more likely someone who would sponsor us is going to be able to sponsor us, because then they'll say, ooh, this person can also get me exposure. And it becomes this sort of pay it forward kind of thing. And if they do that, then we get to do more free content. So we're playing the game is really what we're trying to do. We're playing the game. The same goes for this broadcast here. The more subscriptions, followers, viewers we have here, the more I can be supported enough to do more research on stuff and not have to spend time doing other things. That's what that's about. So Spotify viewership helps us wherever you get your stuff. If you're on Spotify, if you just download the episode, that counts towards something for us. So we like to say downloads and emojis. They help us do more stuff. Yeah, Shauna, I love the Zelda side eye too. She gives it so often. I'll put a picture on my Instagram stories later today. She fell asleep with her head back yesterday and her bottom teeth were just sticking out all wonky. And it was adorable. She looked like a little gremlin. And so I'll post that on my probably Instagram stories later today. Keep an eye out for it. Yes. So the other thing I was going to talk about, speaking of the Alchemist Inkwell, did anybody get to watch the episode with John Edward in it? And if you liked it, I have something really cool I want to share with you guys, because this week, in fact, tomorrow, John's book is releasing. And I happened to find out that he's doing a book tour, as you would, like living the dream. And he's going to different places across the country to do this book tour. And I found out that he's coming to Richmond. So I bought a ticket and I'm going to Richmond, and the ticket includes a signed copy of the book. So I'm stoked about that. But if there's the opportunity, if you'd like to see John Edward live, he actually even holds space when you're purchasing your ticket. Not only are you going to get a free copy of the book that's signed, but also they let you ask a question while you're purchasing the ticket so that they can have it all ready and your question could get answered during the live sort of presentation that they're doing. I imagine it's more like a panel kind of situation where they're up there talking about their experiences and then answering questions. There is a Q&A segment, but your question gets submitted like right away, which I think is a really considerate thing to do. So I really want to encourage you, if you want to see John Edward in person and also get a free copy of the book, which is signed by both of them, and have the opportunity to ask a question. It's like they're doing a lot of really good things. Check out his website. I think it's just johnedward.com. And you will be able to see where he is. If you want to do the one near Richmond, let me know, because I'll come around and give you a high five too. It'd be awesome to have a bunch of us there. Yeah. And so just putting that out there, I know the Richmond one is actually this Friday, so I'm pretty stoked about it. And I will be there and I'm stoked. Awesome. Angela coming in. Angela with the facts, as it says in the name, says the best thing to do is download it on Spotify and then watch it on YouTube and like, comment, share on YouTube. There you go. That's almost to me like math. So I'm really glad we have brilliant minds like Angela. Amber, thank you so much for John Edward's website, so people can check out the book tour there if you want to. It was actually also decently priced. So I'm really excited about that too. Plus, the cool thing is my husband and I are both going. So I'm going to get a copy of the book that I'll be able to give to my dad for Christmas. He's going to love it. And then I'll be able to keep one too. I'm stoked, which is apparently my word of the day. All right. Echo says it's my understanding that even just clicking on here and copying the link will count as a share. So Echo, I can say with confidence that I'm pretty sure that works, mostly because I play a video game by a producer called Hoyo, and Hoyo will give you extra in-game currencies if you share their stuff. And all I do is copy a link so that I don't have to spam anybody by sharing things and like post randomly on my social profiles with things, and I get the rewards. So it stands to reason if you just copy the link, that counts as a share. So you can copy the link and then not do anything with it. Or if you want to, you can copy the link and share it with someone, because that's an actual person who may get help from it. If you have someone who you think would get help from it, please feel free to share with them. I love talking to all of you, and so does Emily. But also just clicking the link will also benefit our metrics to help us out in that space. Thank you guys. Wow, you can tell we're in Virgo season because we're doing really good talking business over here. So yeah, I do have a chart I can show you, because one of the things that's happening this week, aside from Saturn moving into Pisces today, which is a pretty big deal. I think Saturn may already be in Pisces. My chart is for the eclipse and I don't want to lose it. So I'm going to come here and update the chart for now. Saturn is at 29 Pisces and 58 minutes. So Saturn is in Pisces for the long haul through basically Valentine's Day. That's fun stuff. But the eclipse is coming this week, and the eclipse is going to be a lunar eclipse in Pisces, very closely conjunct that the nodes, and also quite near Saturn, of course. Saturn is just lurking. Lurking is a great word that Echo just used too. Saturn is just lurking everywhere right now. For instance, I've been trying to figure out when to make a Jupiter talisman. And to everybody in the Making Magic or higher tiers on Patreon, I think I got one, and I scheduled it for you yesterday. It'll be in October. Unfortunately, I'm going to be abroad at the time, so I won't be able to do it, but you might. So I've got to wait for another opportunity, but you might be able to make it. And it's one of the better opportunities, because Saturn, now being in Pisces, at least is going to be out of Jupiter's way. So this whole time Jupiter's been in Cancer, where Jupiter's exalted. Saturn's been in Aries, which is in square by whole sign to Jupiter, which is a pain in the butt, because technically that's like an affliction. And it's like, do I want to play the game of creating an ensouled talisman that might have a cocky attitude because of Saturn? I don't know. So I wanted to wait for Saturn to get out of the way. Fortunately, Mars will also get out of the way by October, because Mars is also squaring Jupiter from the other side, which means Mars and Saturn are opposing each other, which is a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff to deal with. If you've rolled your eyes a lot this summer, blame those two, because they are both in signs they do not like to be in, and they're opposing each other. So they're kind of glaring at each other. Imagine you're having a really bad day and you find someone across the room who's also having a real bad day, and you just glare at each other and you're like, do I need to pick this fight right now? And then there's probably that rational side of you that's like, nah, maybe not, but also I still don't like you looking at me. That's the energy that these two planets have had for a majority of the summer, especially the last couple weeks. And it's annoying, but it will move on. It will pass, and we're glad about that. Yeah. Cool. So have I missed anything, Amber? I need to scroll back up here and catch up on things. And then if you want, we have our last half hour. I can give you guys a bit of an overview on the eclipse, stuff that's going on with that. I have so many notes. I feel bad for my student study tier on Patreon got like my notes from the eclipse in their newsletter yesterday. And it's based on Ptolemy's criteria. So there's like a lot of stuff going on. Ptolemy was in Greco-Roman Egypt at the time, and he wanted to kind of justify astrology as a natural science. So he wrote a book called Tetrabiblos, and that's the only thing he really did with astrology. Like, he liked it enough to be able to say this, and then kind of moved on to other things because he was much more into the sciences. And that book survived, and therefore was used as a model for a lot of things centuries beyond, and even today. I personally, I like it. I've seen it kind of work pretty well. There are other ways that we can also analyze and predict with eclipses, but this one works really well. And it tends to be one of the primary foundations of our eclipse prediction stuff to this day. Masha Allah and Abu Mashar in the Islamic era of Persian astrology also used it as a foundation. Lots of other astrologers did too, straight through with like Placidus. If I remember right, Placidus himself was a pretty big Ptolemy fan. And I think William Lilly may have disagreed with Placidus, but I think Lilly still liked Ptolemy. I'm getting a really cool history lesson in the current book I'm reading. So, and Amber says, no, I think people are just saying hello. Cool. Also, if people see AJ writing in all caps, AJ is not yelling at me. I asked AJ to do that so I don't accidentally miss what she's saying. So it's not bad. It's actually perfect. Yes. So Sassafras Kath, good to see you. Awesome. Yes. Eclipse stuff. Here we go. Then I will share the screen as I can do. So I'm going to get rid of the Luna here. That's going to confuse the heck out of me. There we go. So we'll share Luna. Okay, so this is Luna astrology software made by a wonderful guy named Kevin in Portland. And Kevin actually is a wonderful guy. We've got some more features that I'd like to see in it, but this is a really good software, especially as you're getting acquainted with working around a chart because it's super interactive. So for example, we're looking at the lunar eclipse in Pisces. So we want to narrow down to the moon and see what's going on with the moon, what actually matters. So we're just going to click on the moon and it clears out all the stuff that's not doing anything with the moon at the time. And that makes it a lot easier to see. You can also then click up here. Oh, you double click the moon, my bad. Double click the moon and you get tons of stuff that you can look at, which is really helpful. But let's focus on this eclipse. So when we look at the eclipse, it's happening at 15 degrees and 22 minutes of Pisces because it's a lunar eclipse. Why is it a lunar eclipse? If you know, feel free to throw it in the comments because I want you to be excited about the stuff that you know and learn. But it is a lunar eclipse because it's a full moon. So what we're looking at here is the sun. I'm going to do it. Okay. I have more circles to use. Okay. So this is the sun. I'm going to move in because I know I'm only a square on your chart or on your screen right now. This is the sun because it's the bigger one. And then this is the moon because it's the smaller one. Well, my head for this case is going to have to be Earth. Okay, so we have 3 planets involved in eclipses. We have the sun, we have the moon, we have Earth, the dome right here. And so when the sun is over here and the moon is over here and Earth is in the middle, we get a full moon because the sun can shine fully on the moon. It's got direct access to shine on it. Now, it is shining through Earth to do that, right? That's because the way that the sun and the moon go around is not just on level. And in fact, the Earth itself is tilted. So you'll notice like when you look at the sun rising and setting during your day, it doesn't go whoop. It goes like at an angle because spherical trigonometry, to be honest with you. So because you are at a certain longitude and latitude on Earth, the way you're tilted toward the sun is going to tell you where the sun actually is visible from your perspective on Earth. Because the sun is not directly above you, which it will only be on the equator, you know you're on a hemisphere of the planet and you get to see that. It's so cool. The sun will usually be like southern. If you're in the northern hemisphere, it'll be slightly southern because you're thinking about the sun being directly above the equator, right? So if you're in the northern hemisphere, that means the sun is a little bit south from your position. So if you look to the southeast in the morning, you're going to see the sunrise. And then it's going to go towards the west. So we have the east and the west, and the sun will make a band in the south of that place. So it'll start out in the southeast and it'll go towards the southwest and it'll set and it'll do it again the next day. And that's how the sun works. And we see that because the Earth is rotating, of course. But sometimes the way everything lines up, where the planets are doing their thing, they line up perfectly so that the Earth does get in the way. And so because the Earth does get in the way, basically the atmosphere of the Earth gets the light all messed up from the sun towards the moon. And we get this really red blood moon, which is a lunar eclipse. So we know we're looking at this chart at a lunar eclipse because it is a full moon And these nodes here let us know if it's an eclipse or not. If the sun and the moon are roughly within 15 degrees on either side of these nodes, we're going to have an eclipse. And this is a total lunar eclipse. Why? Because it's real close to these nodes. So it's a total lunar eclipse. Now, will we see it? You can eyeball it and say, well, not really, because it's happening during the daytime for us, which means the moon, being a full moon, is not in our hemisphere for us to see. So we would want it to be happening at nighttime for us to see it. That's one of our basic things to look at. And so this is going to be visible over Western Australia and certain areas of Asia. And so because it's happening at their nighttime while the sun will be below the horizon, will get to see this total lunar eclipse. Does that make sense? Fun stuff. Some things you can just eyeball on a chart, which is really great. Some things we can't, and that's a bummer. Some programs will give us more. Let me look at this, because the thing we're looking for, and it doesn't look like we have it here, is called declination. It lets you know sort of the angle of the moon. Coordinates would have that. So longitude, right ascension, declination. So you can see this thing here is not at 0. So it's very wide, actually. So that's the declination of the moon. And so that's just telling us, like, hey, I know this is a flat chart, but the moon actually does move up and down. We've seen it, that sort of infinity picture you'll see of the moon whenever someone's like, I've taken a picture of the moon every day of the year, and it makes this symbol. That's because it goes up and down over the through the zodiac, which is a band throughout the sky. And in the middle of the zodiac runs the ecliptic. And the ecliptic is thus named because when the sun and the moon hit the ecliptic at the same angle, we get eclipses. So there's some more stuff for you on that. Shauna, you did not miss it. I'm talking about that next. Whoop, whoop. Rita, AJ is Amber. Amber J. Breland. Ooh, Amber, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. I think it's Breland. Amber is AJ. So I feel like I need to drill the main idea since it changes always. I'm going to get to that in a second, Kristen. So Shauna, let's first talk about, you know what? We're going to talk about Kristen's thing first. So your workbook, first astrology book, to drill in the ideas since it changes. The main concepts of astrology do not change. That's the good news. So a workbook that is great. Thank you, AJ. A workbook that will be a really good one for you, Kristen, is Astrology for Yourself. It needs to be updated. Because we've learned more since then. So if you mean like it always changes, that might be something. We get more research done. But this is a really good research book. It is a workbook. It does your astrology. And so it helps a lot. I highly recommend it. But also the concepts that we learn in astrology are like 5,000 years older. So the good news is once you get it, you just apply it to the new circumstances. So I want to kind of give you that encouragement. But Astrology for Yourself by Demetra George and some other person, Bloch, B-L-O-C-H, is a great resource. I've had a bunch of people who I've recommended it to start using it and say that it is helping them. So I love that for everybody. Okay. It was, I don't know, AJ, my bad. So now I can move on to solar eclipses. Shauna, excellent point. So a solar eclipse, remember, we have the sun, we have the moon, and we have Earth. And so in this situation, actually, I think I want to make you guys Earth in this situation. So we have the sun and the moon, and you are Earth, okay? Sun, moon, you are playing the role of Earth in this scenario. The cool thing here that we get to see is that the sun is bigger than the moon, obviously, right? The sun's massive. But because of how far away the sun is from Earth and how close the moon is, they have the same apparent magnitude. So they look like they're roughly the same size from our perspective. This is the only reason we can get eclipses. And so what you're seeing right now is what a solar eclipse does. When the sun and the moon are in a new moon position and they're on the right declination with each other, as we just talked about, the moon can fully block out the sun or partially block out the sun, depending on if it's a partial or a total solar eclipse. But because the moon is there, it can block out the sun. and therefore we don't see it anymore, and that becomes our solar eclipse. And then the moon moves on and the sun comes back out, and voila. So that's a solar eclipse. Did I do a decent job explaining that, Shauna, at all? How did that feel, guys? New moon versus full moon. That's all it is. It's a new moon versus full moon. Yay, eclipses. Gabe is here. And the way on a chart that you can tell if this new moon or full moon is going to be an eclipse is you want to keep an eye on these little horseshoes. If the full moon or the new moon, if the full moon or the new moon is near these horseshoes, which are the lunar nodes, then you will have an eclipse. I had to say it slowly, but that is the way it works. So it's really easy to eyeball. And once you get into astrology, everyone's going to be talking about it all the time. Oh, the eclipses are in Pisces and Virgo right now. And then they'll move on. And the eclipses, you'll see they actually move backwards. So the next round of eclipses will be in Aquarius and Leo. And they actually kick in a couple months. We get our first Aquarian eclipse, which is crazy to think about. So the nodes are always retrograde, which is weird. It is. There are two ways to calculate the nodes. One, I believe this one is the mean node. It's always retrograde. Then there's the true node. It's just another way to calculate them. That will sometimes go direct. You average it out, mean, and it moves backwards. So yeah, that gets into some nitty gritty math stuff. And I just like to look at the node, see where it is, and work with it. But yeah, they do move backwards. Yeah. What did I miss here? All right. Any questions on that kind of stuff so far? Awesome. Also, to my astrology nerds out there, including Gabe, I just signed up for UAC today. UAC is the United Astrology Conference. It's like, in my mind, I call it the Olympics of astrology because it only happens, I think, every 4 years. It's been a while since it's happened due to the pandemic and such. But I will be at UAC a year from now, and I'm very stoked about that. That's going to be fun. Yeah, it's one of those things where we have organizations in the astrological community, believe it or not. And if you're a member, you get discounts and it's really helpful and it's really fun. Yay for UAC. Yeah. I hope, Gabe, I hope you decide to go only because I like seeing you. So that's a very selfish thing on my part. I will be there because I am a member of the board of NCGR. So it's kind of expected. But also it'll be really fun. It'll be my first UAC because they haven't had any since the pandemic. So it'll be fun. Yeah. So this is our Pisces eclipse. We're not going to be able to, like I said, see it here necessarily. It's going to be a total lunar eclipse over Western Australia, but it will still be happening. It is still an eclipse, and it will be happening at around 2:08 p.m. Eastern time on the 7th. And I'm just going to remind myself that's Sunday. So next Sunday, we will have our lunar eclipse. And by the time it's nighttime, pretty much anywhere in the United States, the eclipse will kind of be done with itself. So yay. I'm so glad we're adding books to Thrift Books carts. Also, Thrift Books is a good resource. I love that. Yes. Awesome. So this is your lovely chart. And the good thing that I am looking at here, if we narrow this down and make it a little bit easier, right? The sun is, in Virgo, the moon is in Pisces, and we have this nice trine to Jupiter. The next aspect the moon will make is to Jupiter. If I recall right, I was reading in Ancient Astrology of Mesopotamia, I think is the book. It's over there because I'm still reading it. There was a passage. Now, this is in the Mesopotamian era, right? So we've done a lot of different studies since then. But one of the things it said was like, you don't really have to worry about it if Jupiter's trying to it. And if the moon's applying to Jupiter and it's exalted and they've got this lovely mutual reception because the moon rules Cancer and Jupiter rules Pisces, there is some support here. It's soothing, right? So that's interesting to think about. What you want to do if you want to say like, if you want to wonder if the eclipse is pertinent to you, you just want to look at your own chart and see what's going on for you in Virgo in Pisces and also in Sagittarius and Gemini. So these 4 signs that make like an X or a cross, they're called the mutable cross. And it's because they square each other and they form a cross, and they are all mutable signs. And so you just want to look at the 15-degree area of all of those. And if you have something around there, it's going to be aspecting by a square, opposition, or conjunction this eclipse. And so if you also are in a annual perfection year or some kind of a timing where Pisces is active for you, then you would also say, ooh, this eclipse is happening in my activated house. The last lunar eclipse, which is in Virgo, it was back in March, I think, was in my perfected house. And honestly, like aside from the fact that it was my 10th house and I was teaching astrology on the Nile River that day, I didn't really feel super impacted by it. So things to just, again, observe and study. Jenny, hi. Why would the eclipse in Aquarius be wild? Well, my first reaction to that is because my nodes are in Aquarius, but let me show you as well. I'm going to go to 2026. We're going to pop over to Aquarius, and I can't remember if it's the solar or the lunar. So you can see we've got a lot happening in very close proximity to things. This is still Virgo, but okay, so this will be an eclipse, even though the nodes are still in Pisces, right? We said within 15 degrees on either side. So if you pop over to Aquarius, this is still in that range. It's about 11 degrees away from the nodes. So this is going to be a solar eclipse in Aquarius. And there's just a lot happening all at once here. There's a lot bunched up together. And it's also near Mars and stuff like that. So I will analyze this even further as we get closer to it and let you know. But it's just a lot of stuff hanging out together. Like everybody but Jupiter is in the party over here. Uranus is chilling back in Taurus. So that's why, but also because my actual nodes, it'll be my nodal return when they get to Aquarius, which is kind of like a Saturn return, but for the nodes. So it's a different thing to interpret. That's all. But yeah, I'm just looking at all these people. When the social media talks about a planetary parade, this qualifies so much more as a parade of planets than what we have in the sky right now. Just saying, because you'll have the sun will come up, and of course Mars will come up before that. And again, they're not going to be super visible because they're all going to be up near the time as the sun, so it'll be daytime. But you're going to have like Mars, and then the sun, and then the moon, and then Venus, and then Mercury, and then Saturn. Neptune's not visible without a telescope. And we see that Saturn-Neptune conjunction, which is something that I'm going to be keeping my eye on, is still very tightly applying at that point. So yeah, there's just a lot happening here. And of course, Pluto's there too. It's just further away. So Uranus symbol looks like the USS Enterprise. It does. That is an excellent point. It does look like the USS Enterprise. Yeah, I like that idea. That's kind of appropriate. I like it a lot. Good point, Kristen. Yeah, so that's why I say it's going to be wild. A, because I know my personal chart and I'm like, ooh, that's going to be in a position that I also know some stuff is happening for me next year. And also lots of focus in same areas of the chart, in like lots of planets hanging out together. Yeah. I'm always happy to answer questions that I know the answers to. And if I don't know the answers, I will find them. Yeah, cool. Yeah, all my Aquarius risings. So you'll want to kind of look at that as well. If you're an Aquarius rising, this is happening in your first house. So stuff to keep in mind. But again, you got time. This is February 17th. We don't have to think about it yet. We're going to get through this current round of eclipses first, which is going to be centered. I have to do a couple clicks to get there, but there we go. Ta-da. So this is the eclipse that's coming up. And then after that, we'll have the solar eclipse in Virgo, and then we'll start kind of working our way towards the Aquarius Leo eclipses. Yeah, honestly, I have a telescope. Here's my thing. I'm so bad at finding points in the sky with a telescope. I can see where I'm trying to see. I can point the telescope at it, and then I still will look through the telescope and have missed it. So I'm really bad at setting the telescope up. I have it. It's in the corner over there. I just need to get good at it, and I need to go somewhere where we don't have a lot of light pollution because I am in suburbia. Yeah. Cool. How am I doing on questions? How are we feeling? Any questions that anybody has? I feel like the time today went by really fast. Kristen, the book, AJ, I think might have been The Astrology for Yourself. I am good in all caps. That feels amazing. Thank you. Yeah, so that's where we're at. This is our lovely eclipse coming up. And again, as far as eclipses go, I feel decent about this one just because we've got Jupiter there. Now, also Saturn, which is like this mutual application, but we have to go through Jupiter first. And that's the one of the moment. So that's kind of nice. Yeah. I'm just looking at my other aspects here. I have analyzed this more in depth. I will be doing a YouTube video, especially for this, that will come out later this week. So you can join my mailing list to get notified for that. And you get like extra stuff there too. This is not my favorite time for magic. And I think this is something that I'm going to take the screen away and we can talk about this and cover questions on that as well. Amber, you read Small Magics. Yay, I'm so glad you like it. Yes. It's a good helpful little book. And it's so easy. Again, it's a little book and it's very accessible and it's not judgy and it's great. So yeah, let's talk about magic during eclipse season. It's technically a no-no. And the reason I say it's technically a no-no is mostly I'm going to cite astrological magical grimoire called Picatrix. And Picatrix does this really great job of saying, like, when the eclipses are occurring, everything in the composite world is undergoing change. And the composite world is everything under the moon that is made up of, let's say, elements, for a similar analogy, is undergoing change. Eclipses bring change. They were the big omens back in the day, right? They still are. During a solar eclipse, it was a tradition to sort of put in a fake king for the day in case that solar eclipse did something bad to the king. It would do something bad to the fake king and protect the other king. Like, that was the whole superstition around that. So we know changes are happening. Couple things to note about that. The eclipse itself is a really cool event and can serve as a transit that locks something in and makes events occur. So we might notice some events occurring around that time. But there is also a theory, there are many theories, actually, several, that an eclipse begins its own timing. And so this eclipse, because it's a lunar eclipse, will actually take as many months to unfold as it lasts in hours. Let me just try to find my document on that, because I did do the math here. It takes me a long time, but I did the math. And so if I pull up for my Patreon students, this is in your Aries Ingress document that we have in my 2025 Aries Ingress notes, which is long. It's a lot of notes. It is 42 pages long. When I go to the eclipses, we want to do... I don't want to do the pre-ingress one. I don't want to do solar. I want to do lunar eclipse on September 7th. Okay. So when I look at, thank you, AJ, for that. When I look at the timing for this one, the eclipse, according to space.com, is going to be 1 hour and 22 minutes long. If we math that out and convert it into months and days, it's going to be about roughly like a 42-day situation. That we'll see the unfolding here. I think I got my math right on that. I'm just double checking myself here. And we might see the most intense versions of this. Oh yeah. So something else to say is that those 42 days do not necessarily begin the day of the eclipse. If the eclipse is at sunrise, yeah, the timing happens right away. You saw that this eclipse happens sort of midday, and it's actually bottom half of the chart, which means we don't really have calculation for that for our location. You want to have the eclipse in the top half of the chart to see how relevant it's going to be. It's kind of like if you can see the eclipse can see you kind of stuff. So for people in Australia, this eclipse is, according to Ptolemy's calculations, going to kick off a 42-ish day period that starts in the second third of the year, beginning the day of the eclipse. So 1 year from the eclipse, we take that year, we break it off into the second third, which means I think we see it's about, like, the way I did this math So just work with me here. The way I did this math is that the eclipse begins in January, sometime in January to May, because again, it begins in like the 4 to 8 month period, that second third of the year from the date of the eclipse. Yeah, we're getting mathy here. You do not need to remember any of this. Don't worry. But that's when it would technically begin. And then it kicks off a 42-day period within that time. So 42 days lasting until, if it begins in January, February. If it begins in May, June, right? It's like a month and a half kind of thing. And then it would intensify at a certain point in there as well. So somewhere between February and June, we will see the pinnacle of this eclipse according to Ptolemy's calculations for the timing of how eclipses work. Also taking into account that because Jupiter is the ruler of this eclipse, anything that Jupiter does by planetary phase, so like when Jupiter goes retrograde, when Jupiter goes direct, when Jupiter becomes a morning star or an evening star, however Jupiter relates to its position in the sky with the sun, when that changes, we might see intensifications or abatement. Abatement meaning like intensification, things get more noticeable. Abatement, they chill out. And so I also have some days for that for my student study tier. You guys get that information. Like I said, you don't need to know any of that. We just know that it's going to be the eclipse happens this weekend, and then its timing is kind of calculated from that based on its position in the chart and how long the eclipse itself lasts. And then we observe. And that's really the best thing to do with astrology. Like I was saying earlier, is you say, according to what I can read, this is the math. I will do the math and I will take notes of what actually happens at that time to see if the math works well. And we go from there. And that's like 90% of being an astrologer. Okay, so we have a question from Ren. Do you have any tips for Jupiter conjunct the North Node? Going to be conjunct during the eclipse. Is this a stand back and observe moment? Jupiter conjunct the North Node during the eclipse. I don't think I'm not understanding that, because if I pull up the chart again, what we're going to look at and explain this for everybody so that we can all see. And then you can help me here, Ren, so that I can understand what you're asking. Jupiter is here, and the North Node is this horseshoe right here. So during this eclipse in Pisces, Jupiter will not be conjunct the North Node. The moon will be conjunct the North Node, and Jupiter rules the moon and the moon rules Jupiter. So again, we have that mutual reception by trine, which is nice. Your personal North Node. Gotcha. So if Jupiter is conjunct your personal North Node and it's during this eclipse, that means your personal North Node is in Cancer, correct? Yeah. Bye, Gabe. So what we're going to see there is that Jupiter by transit is conjunct your North Node, and it has been. It's going to hang out there and go across it, and at this point, probably retrograde back over it. Jupiter being conjunct the North Node is actually kind of nice. Your natal North Node, not really sure. It's very vague. Ancient astrology in the Hellenistic world did not do a lot with North Node stuff or South Node stuff, other than to say there's an intensity if you're born with a conjunction to it. So there would be Jupiter, maybe, if I kind of tried to pull together everything I know, you could say that Jupiter is adding a sort of beneficence to the North Node, which is not given an inherent quality or interpretation in Hellenistic astrology. In more spiritual modern astrology, it's kind of given this sort of life purpose karmic path thing. So I would encourage you, pay attention right now. Are you noticing a depth and an expansion of your understanding of your karmic path and your spiritual path and purpose? If you are, cool, you're adding to the research that maybe that is a good interpretation for the nodes. But that's the best I can do. I think lots of spiritual people should adopt what I'm seeing, feeling right now is, and if that changes, I'll let you know. Yeah. I think that's a really great idea, especially for the people right now who are making predictions about certain things that honestly, I don't think we should be making predictions for, just because we have a lot of emotion invested in those certain topics, especially the people who are making those predictions. And again, when it comes to predictions of the nature of which I'm speaking, if you know, you know. I do share a little bit more detail on that with the people in my student study tier, especially on Patreon. So people who come to the live calls, I usually give them updates on stuff like that. So yeah, I hope that helps. Again, the nodes are given a lot of pop astrological significance, but we need to do more research on the basis for that. Yeah. Sweet. And again, research may show that it's totally valid. We don't know. We'll find out. But it's something that we get to take our time to do. Awesome. Well, wow, I can't believe we've already come up on time. Yeah, thank you guys for the pushing the heart button. That makes me feel happy. I really appreciate it. Again, if you feel, I'm going to take away this screen so that I can actually see you better. If you feel like sharing this with someone, I would love that. The more the merrier in this community. I love how much you support each other. I love the conversations you get to have with each other. I love being able to answer your questions. And again, you hold me accountable to continue learning, which is fantastic and the best exchange of energy I could ask for. So I hope everybody has a fantastic day. Stay safe this week. Be observant. Look around. Notice any omens or signs around you. It's one of the best things to do magically during eclipse season is to pay attention, listen, and receive. Divination is a great idea. And I will see you next week when we will talk a little bit more about Mercury's Cazimi coming up next week. It's going to be a really cool thing to be able to take advantage of. So we will see how that rolls out. And I hope you guys, like I said, have a safe and wonderful week. Thank you all.